Hello, you are watching India Today Global. I am Pranay Upadhyay. In diplomacy, every word matters. And when US or any other country uses any other specific word or a coinage of a lexicon, it actually has a lot of meaning. We will try and understand the nuance of Indo-Pacific and Asia-Pacific. What does it entail? And I'm being joined by a senior journalist, Sandeep Unnithan. Welcome to India Today Global.
Thank you, Pranay.
First question. What made in US to use Asia-Pacific to Indo-Pacific and Indo-Pacific to Asia-Pacific, again in the latest statement issued by the Department of Defense after the meeting of Pete Hegseth and Foreign Minister and our External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar?
I'm just looking at that statement again, Pranay. Great meeting yesterday with Indian Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar. That's Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Thank you, Mr. Minister, for all you do to strengthen US-India relations, especially our defense partnership. Now, this third paragraph is most interesting.
Yes.
I salute our two great democracies' cooperation in securing a free and open Asia-Pacific. He said Asia-Pacific and not Indo-Pacific.
Absolutely.
You know, Pranay, 2018 was the year when the United States, as part of its pivot to Asia, renamed the Pacific Command, the largest US command, as the Indo-PACOM, the Indo-Pacific Command. And here, 7 years later, you have this very significant statement from US Secretary Defense Pete Hegseth calling it the Asia-Pacific. So there's something afoot here. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's definitely it's deliberate. It's not a slip. Is this to assuage
not only
China?
the social media posts, Sandeep, but even the formal statement issued by the Department of Defense, the readout, that also especially mentions this word, the usage of Asia Pacific. So twice they have used.
Right.
So this is a considered
it's no slip up.
It's no slip up.
Yeah. So which means that what's cooking there in the Trump administration? Why are they calling it the Asia Pacific and not the Indo-Pacific? I mean, of course, Indo in Indo-Pacific doesn't mean just India. It means the Indian Ocean. And the fact that you have the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, which are two of the most critical oceans in the world today, given the fact that you have China and
But with your hand gesture, you can very well make out that if you see on the map, the centrality of India in Indo-Pacific, by the virtue of India's geography in Indian Ocean, this gives us a very important role.
Yeah, we're there. We're straddling both.
And it's the same President Sandeep who has been saying, like, during his previous administration, he was the one who said that in the US policy of Indo-Pacific, India has a pivotal role, the centrality of India as a key partner.
So what happened in his second term? I mean, why the Asia Pacific? Is it because he's got that big outreach to China that's we are being told is going to be one of the biggest delegations that any US president has taken to China that could come in a couple of months. Trump going to cut a deal with the Chinese, and possibly this is part of the deal. And this goes back to what Henry Kissinger always spoke of, the G2, which is the world divided between the United States and China, where the two countries, the two poles. He saw the world, the way the world was going to shape up. Of course, he didn't live to see it, but where it would be 10, 20 years down the line, and possibly Trump is taking a leaf out of that. And who knows, this little not so evident slip up seems to suggest that there is something more that's cooking.
I completely agree with you, Sandeep, because if you see, if you try and connect the dots since Biden administration's FAG end to the Trump administration, the transition, people thought that there is going to be a scene change. There's going to be change towards policy towards Asia, South Asia. Initially, Trump gave that indication, but something has changed thereafter. See, the policy regarding Bangladesh, people thought that after Trump, assuming power, people thought that, the kind of thing he said during the campaign, the same thing will be continued and there will be a change. But now you see the Yunus administration and
there seems to be a certain continuity from the Biden administration and the US deep state has kicked in.
Absolutely. This seems that there is some say or some play of the US deep state, and this time it's a different Trump. It's a different Trump administration. And even you will recall that recently Marco Rubio said that this is not the old Trump administration. This is a new Trump administration. But with this new Trump administration, why, this really intrigues me, Sandeep, and help me understand and our viewers as well, that after exiting Afghanistan, US interest diminished in the region. People
considerably.
Considerably. And when 12th of February, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US President Donald Trump in Oval Office, that press spray, he said that for Bangladesh, Prime Minister Modi is there. Ask him. But certainly something has changed, or something is cooking up subterraneanly. But if you see, they want to come back in Pakistan.
Yes.
And they also want to have their presence in Bay of Bengal. Why?
Well, good question, Pranay. And you're a keener watcher of the region and geopolitics than I am. But to make sense of this is there's a game of geopolitical chess that's underway right now, and literally every single day, one chess move is being played out. Right? We have to sit and look at all of. We haven't seen the chessboard yet. We have a fair idea what the chess game is like, but the rate at which these geopolitical moves are happening, like every single day. Today, the Russian Federation became the first country to recognize the Taliban.
Yes.
Who would have thought? That happened. Who's next? Is it going to be China? Will it be China?
Possibly. They share a border.
Yeah, they share a border with Afghanistan. It's a very small, I think it's 50 kilometers? Or the Wakhan corridor.
The Wakhan corridor, it's a very small stretch.
Who next after that? Would it be India? Would India recognize the Taliban? We've got good relations.
There's clearly a shift as far as our approach and policy towards.
There's a lot that's playing out right now, which all of us are trying to make sense of. And I think Pakistan has once again, the fact that you have the chief of a bankrupt nation who's being feted and dined and celebrated in Washington suggests that there's a game afoot. And every time Pakistan is in favor in Washington, you have to understand it's not because they love the dictators or they love the dictator for what he can bring to the table. So on the 12th, around Operation Sindoor, Pranay, I'm just sitting over there and looking at my social media feed 2 days after Op Sindoor. I saw this report which said that Iran was ready to strike Iran. Israel was ready to strike at Iran, and suddenly something made sense to me. And I said that is Munir going to be dragged into this as well? Because if Israel is going to strike at Iran, there's clearly a Pakistani angle, right? Because Pakistan and Iran, geography exactly.
Yes.
So this whole game, Pranay, I think is the revenge of geography. And it is,
as
Pakistan.
Robert Kaplan said.
Yes, as he said, and this whole thing seems to suggest that Pakistan once again is charging rent for its geographical location. The fact that you have the Pakistan army
historically,
chief
that state has always remained a contractual state, like contractor state.
A contractor state which is ready to hire out its services to the highest bidder. In this case, the United States. And every time there's a crisis, it thrives on crisis. And the fact that there is a crisis now, which is this great power, contest between the United States and China.
Before I come to China angle, but is it Iran which brought back US interest in Pakistan and in the South and Central Asia region?
I don't think we've seen the full chessboard yet. What we have seen, we're looking at the US interest in Pakistan through the very narrow prism of the US-China, the US-Iran, relations. That prism, the US-Israel-Iran prism. But Pakistan has many other uses as well. The United States would definitely want to pull Pakistan away from the Chinese embrace. Something like what the Chinese have been doing with us, which is a string of pearls.
Sandeep, the kind of investment China is having in Pakistan, huge investment.
Yes.
How Pakistan can walk this tightrope, that balancing two giants, China, US. Certainly, Chinese would not want Pakistan to give any of their bases, and especially in the Balochistan region or KPK region, where they have that there are huge investment, and even if the platform sharing is there. JF-17 and J-10s and their military technology, which they are giving out to
F-16s and JF-17s.
What F-16s and
that's an interesting point, and that possibly explains what the Pakistani Air Chief is doing in Washington at the moment, as we speak. Air Chief Marshal Babar, right?
Yes,
he's there.
Babar Sidhu.
And what is Sidhu talking to the Americans about? Is it bases? Quite possible. Americans
there has to
would
be,
love
if,
to
if,
have
Sandeep,
base back.
if there is Pakistan, there has to be a quid pro quo.
Yes.
So I'm sure Pakistanis have been, after US, they have been asking US, State Department of Defense to give additional, either the upgrade of F-16s or the additional F-16s.
Yes.
Which they have been denied due to their role in war on terror. And
possibly there's a US arms deal in the pipeline. It's either upgrades to the F-16s, Block 52s, or additional F-16s, or even additional AMRAAMs, or something like missile defense against the BrahMos missile, for instance. There is a long list of items that Pakistanis have.
India back to square one. We have been opposing. Despite our opposition, US gave F-16 to Pakistan.
Yes.
They explained that that
they
was required
to fight the Taliban,
fight the Taliban, which were never used in Afghanistan. But still,
as ridiculous as that sounds.
Yeah, but now what? If US again start arming Pakistan, we have history that Pakistan has used the US given resources against us to fuel terrorism, the dollar or defense equipment.
And it's not just the United States, because I think this is the first time in Pakistan's history that it is going to get cutting edge tech. If it is actually indeed going to get anything from the United States, it will be the first time that it's getting cutting edge technology from both China and the United States. Now, China was never a power of any consequence, at least a military power or a hardware manufacturer of any consequence in the 60s, 70s, through the 80s and 90s. It's only now that you are seeing Chinese hardware, which approaches, say, even fourth generation American technology, which is where Pakistan's interest in Chinese hardware is, all of their new aircraft, like something like 80% of their acquisitions in the last 20 years have been of Chinese hardware.
Origin, yes.
Frontline Chinese equipment that's been provided to them, and of course their Turkish brothers are also there at hand to provide them corvettes, frigates, drones, attack hepters, and all of that. But this
has
balancing
Operation
act
Sindoor
between China
made
and
them,
US,
feel that they actually need US equipment, because HQ9, HQ16s have failed.
Yeah, completely couldn't stop the BrahMos onslaught. So it's quite possible that Pakistan would want the PAC-3, the Patriot 3, anti-missile interceptors to stop, because they know that there would be another Indian response in case they tried something. And you can bet on the fact that military regime in Pakistan will want to test India once again.
Yes.
And try and recover some, lost ground.
That is the only thing which we can say with surety.
They don't have any. They don't have any other economic plan or anything of that sort. They thrive in crisis, and they would want to kind of test India once again, and this time be better prepared, in a sense that you have an air defense network, you have American radars, American air defense missiles, and let's not forget, Pranay, they lost a couple of American-supplied Lockheed Martin radars, ground very
radars,
powerful radars, which were shattered, and
one of them was there at the Kerana Hill.
So they would want replacements for those radars. It's a very competent radar. One of the M series Lockheed Martin radars, they bought 3 of them, very competent radars, which they need to get replaced, and they're possibly looking at more American cutting edge technology while keeping the Chinese pipeline going. So it's again.
So we have seen the story of Pakistan America partnership, their relationship on the western flank of India, but largely on the eastern flank of India. You see, there has been a congruence of interest, there convergence of interest. We have seen, but something has changed in recent past. Bangladesh is a classic case. US interest
in our northeast.
In our northeast, in our eastern region, especially the Bay of Bengal. The intention to have a base in Bay of Bengal. Do you recall any direct approach by the US side to have base in India? Or probably, because I'm sure we must have denied any such effort. There is no question that India giving a base to.
There's a good question there, but right from the beginning, even before we were independent, the British General Staff had sat and made those assessments in Whitehall, and they were looking at India and Pakistan. Which of these 2 countries is going to give us bases? And the General Staff assessment was that it will be Pakistan that will give us those bases, and not India. And to an extent, they were correct, because when Pakistan, literally jumped into the Western camp with CENTO and the
General Ayub's time,
General Ayub's time, when they shifted completely.
That was the
west.
first shift Pakistan made towards Pakistan.
Major shift towards the US and the West. They gave them bases. They gave them U-2 bases in Peshawar to fly U-2 aircraft. They did approach us as well at various times, but I think there were a couple of.
Is it always a general? From Ayub to Asim Munir?
In the Pakistani side, it's usually always a general. That's why they love Pakistani dictators. Yes. Single window clearance, right? There's no red tape. You just go to the dictator, your work is done, right? Whereas in our case, for them, they love to all these platitudes. Oh, India is a democracy and this concert of democracies and all that.
Oldest democracy, largest democracy, the dance of democracy.
The dance of democracies, but they love to do business with the Pakistani dictators, because getting consensus in India is a problem, and the United States is aware of that. In democracies, everything is up for argument, for discussion, for debate and all of that. So,
and they know that we will exercise our strategic autonomy.
Yes.
We will never give, even during Vajpayee's time, Prime Minister Vajpayee's time.
We never partnered with them, and thank God for this, that we never went into
Afghanistan,
into Iraq.
Iraq.
Into Iraq. That would have been one of the most disastrous decisions. I mean, the cabinet, the Vajpayee cabinet was split down the middle because it was very significant members who wanted to go in.
They are planning to have a base in Bay of Bengal or the eastern part of the Indian Ocean region. What they are up to? Why they want to have a military base in that region? China.
Yes. It's the southern flank of China. It's very vulnerable. It's a Kunming region, and where you see the kind of unrest that's there in Myanmar, you would see the Chinese being very concerned about what's going on in their southern flanks. They're acutely aware of tensions.
Completely understand.
Yeah.
But the Indo-Pacific policy also had the similar meaning and similar, broad planning.
Yes.
But what made them change from Indo-Pacific to Asia-Pacific?
We still don't know. It is, this is a developing story, Pranay, and I'm sure you've broken it right now, right? The fact that Hegseth said it, a lot of people kind of glossed over the fact. They saw Asia Pacific and they said, okay, let's move on to the next thing. But this is something very significant.
This is a shift. This is a change.
This is a shift, definitely. This is a change. They might not rename the Indo-Pac-Com. It seems very unlikely at the moment.
It's their command.
It is a command. But commands can be renamed, right? But would they call it the Asia-Pacific Command? I mean, who knows? These things happen very, overnight in the Trump administration at least. The Gulf of Mexico becomes the Gulf of America. So, the Indo-Pac-Com could well become the
Asia-Pacific Command.
Asia-Pacific Command. Who knows what's cooking over there. But this is something, APCOM, right?
Yeah.
That this is something very significant. Indicates that there's a change in thinking. Not so much India, but is it because the Chinese were very worried that the Indo-Pac-Com suggested and a Chinese American shift towards
India? But these things are happening at a time when we have the kind of presidency of Quad, because we are going to host Quad meeting.
Yes.
And this Quad later this year.
Yeah.
So Quad is happening recently, and these statements, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar was there for the Quad foreign ministers meeting.
Yes.
And the statement came after that.
Yeah.
So certainly there is a push. We can very well see that. I also remember vaguely. Help me, recall that fact that when we signed the SISMOA, LSA, BECA, and all these, foundational agreements with the United States, there was an incident where. A US aircraft from Indo-Pac-Com visited one of our base, maybe in Andaman, I believe, and thereafter the release of that visit of the port of call was issued by the Indo-Pac-Com first.
Yes.
And then we asked the MOD, and then MOD also registered a protest in that regard.
Yeah.
You remember that event?
A protest. Why would they register a protest?
A protest isn't we did not like that the Indo-Pac-Com issued that release first. That one of our base was used to launch some kind of thing from that. I vaguely remember that a few years ago.
Around this, thing.
So similar thing, maybe US want to have more proactive role from India, or maybe they are up to something, and where they initially might have thought that India would do something which we might not have liked it. and therefore they might have decided to have a direct presence in the region.
Right, definitely. See, Bay of Bengal, they see it as it is a strategic body of water, not just for us because of where it's located, but also for the Americans. They have no presence in that region. That entire region, majority of it is India, there's Bangladesh, and of course Myanmar and Thailand and all that. They are not present in that region. So that's clearly an area that they seem to have identified. If you go by what Sheikh Hasina said when she was Prime Minister, that there was an outreach from the United States that they actually wanted a base over there on one of the islands.
I'm forgetting the name of that island, but a very small island.
Off the coast of
Bangladesh.
And then Cox's Bazar came up.
Yes.
It possibly, my hunch is, Pranay, it's about that submarine base that the Chinese helped the Bangladesh Navy build in the Bay of Bengal. And that is possibly...
Does it leave us worried or concerned?
It definitely, worry us, concern us. It possibly worries and concerns the Americans even more, because that is a possible base that the Chinese could ask for in the future for their own submarines and for their own warships, which is how they work on this dual use kind of thing, where not just civil military, but also you make a facility for a country and then your own warships come and start using it and stuff like that. Let's not forget that the Chinese sold Chinese submarines to the Bangladesh Navy. So there's a possibility.
Yes.
There's a possibility that Chinese submarines could also operate in the Bay of Bengal using the facilities that have been created there. And who knows? It's the Americans who got wind of it and said, we need to have a base to look over the Chinese shoulders over there to see what they're up to. So
it's an interesting
point, a great
because
game
again a great game, because if you see the span of the Quad chessboard, then there has to be a military component. Though Quad is not a military alliance,
as we
always
told.
But definitely it has some component of it. If you see the the interoperability of the platform, the kind of uniformity of platform, at least like PATIs or the C-17, C-130Js, all the strategic lift.
It's seen as a maritime counterweight to China. And that's one of the reasons that the Foreign Minister Jaishankar said, look, you have to bring in the terror thing. It cannot be just about maritime thing. I mean, he didn't say it in as many words, but the idea is that you have to bring in that concern reflecting terrorism, because they were
historically, Sandeep, the proximity of a US presence in our waters bit unnerves us.
Baggage of 71?
Maybe, yes, baggage of 71.
I think we've gotten over that now with the kind of close ties.
But can we say that, the kind of strategic cooperation we have with the United States, the kind of relationship which we have grown over the course of years, that the way we felt in with the US presence in Afghanistan, we kind of felt that with the US presence we have a say, we get our interest protected there. Can we say similar things if they get a presence in Bay of Bengal or in the eastern board?
I think we would be very worried if with a US presence in the Bay of Bengal, given the sensitivity of the Bay of Bengal, it is
because we think that it's our backyard.
It's our backyard, exactly. So it would be a little too close to comfort for us, given the fact that our Andaman Islands are there, and it is. It's one thing to have a base in Diego Garcia, which is far south in the Indian Ocean. It's another thing to have a base right there in the Bay of Bengal. Which is
our eastern starboard has all the strategic installations the missile testing range. You have your
it is the potential it's a bastion area for your ballistic missile submarine fleet from
Visakhapatnam.
Of Vizag is where so this is it is of great concern to us if another foreign power were to come in, set up a base there, even one that's as friendly to us now as the United States is.
A last question, Sandeep. But do you see any connection between the regime, so-called US-induced regime change in Pakistan in 2022 and a US-induced regime change or government change in Bangladesh, and along with this strategic shift?
A good question, Pranay. Definitely. I think there is something more than meets the eye. Where there are voices, very authoritative voices who believe there is much more than meets the eye in the kind of the way the regime change has happened in Bangladesh and how quickly Imran Khan fell out of favor
Yes.
in Pakistan. So there you go.
And he went to China.
Yes.
He did not get the favor.
Yes.
So the Chinese role
Yes.
is also like what do you call as a Chinese puzzle.
Yes, absolutely. Flip.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sandeep,
Thank you,
for
Pranay.
for
Been a
this
pleasure.
lovely conversation and helping our viewers understand the nuances of Asia Pacific, Indo-Pacific. But certainly, as you rightly pointed out, this is more than what meeting the eyes. And
games of
we
foot.
Games of foot. But there is certainly a great game is being played in our backyard, in our region, and we have to be really watchful about that game because our interests are there in this region. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you have any comment, do share with us, and we will try and help make you understand with the help of Sandeep Unnithan, senior journalist, and he has a very sharp eye on these issues. Thank you very much.